Hello YouTube, welcome back. Chris here. A couple days ago I did a video on the difference between a freewheel and a cassette, and sure enough, shortly after doing that, a strange freewheel or cassette kind of wandered in the store and I wanted to talk about it. So here we're seeing what we talked about in the previous video, and if you haven't seen that or are curious about the difference between those two, I'll refer you to that video. I'll put a link in the description. But here you're seeing on the left a freewheel, on the right a cassette. And now I'm going to show you what came in and talk about what it is. So this is the bike wheel that came in, and as you can see, it doesn't quite look like a normal cassette. It doesn't quite look like a freewheel. In fact, it looks like an incomplete cassette. It looks like a cassette that's missing its lock ring and its outer cog. But on closer examination, you look at it, there is no way to put a lock ring or freewheel tool on this. It looks incomplete. Well, I'm going to show you how you take this gear cluster off and explain to you what it is. To take this off, I'm going to need two chain whips. I'm going to use a vice whip for the first one. I'm going to use that on the outside cog here. Clamp that down. I'm going to use my traditional chain whip on the inside. You can do this with two regular chain whips or two vice whips if you want. And then you're just going to untorque this outer cog. This outer cog then will unthread and come off. If we look at this up close, it looks a lot like a track cog. It's one ring with a threaded interior, and it just threads right on the outside of this gear cluster. Now if we zoom in closer, you can see it is splined and threaded, and the rest of this just slides off like a normal cassette, because this is a cassette. All the bearings, pawls, everything is in this cassette body. It's just an older standard cassette, and one you don't see very often. In my 10 plus years of working on bikes, I may have seen 2 or 3 of these. They don't come up very often. They didn't make it for very long, and it was not very commonly used. This standard was called Shimano Unidrive, and it's an old standard. They don't make anymore. It was replaced by Shimano Uniglide. It was replaced by Shimano Hyperglide. So this is Uniglide. The big difference, all of the splines are the same size. There's no little spline like there is on a Hyperglide free hub body. And it's also threaded on the edges. So you can just slip it on and thread that outer cog on the outside to lock it down. Now these are on older bikes. I don't know exactly what generation. I want to say late 80s or early 90s. This particular wheel came off of an older Miata, so a Japanese bike. But yeah, just wanted to share that with you. To put it back on, this just drops on like a cassette. And you just thread your outer cog on. Take your chain whip or vice whip, and you torque it down. And it's funny because when it is all together, it looks incomplete. It looks like a cassette that's missing parts, but it's not. That is how it's supposed to go. So if you know anything more about these and want to share, please feel free to comment. I'd love to learn more about this technology and any experiences you might have with it. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm going to make more very similar. Thank you.